The Peach Bowl gets their team. The Nittany Lions are heading to Atlanta to face the Rebels of Ole Miss.
Pretty cool that Penn State has never played in the Peach Bowl, which is something that's unusual in 2023. There's not too many things you can say that has never happened, especially for a program like Penn State.
The numbers are in. Penn State's defense stands up as one of the best in college football. Which key stat the Nittany Lions rank #1 in the country. And it's a tandem that supports each other on and off the field. What makes the dynamic duo of Singleton and Allen worthy of a scrap medal.
How we feel, everybody? Yeah!
Feels like it's time for Nittany Game Week. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to Nittany Game Week. I'm Todd Sadowski, alongside former Nittany Lions coaches Jay Paterno and Tom Bradley. The bowl matchups are set. Penn State gets themselves a New Year's Six bid. It's the Peach versus Ole Miss. What do you think?
Never played them before. Penn State people really know how to enjoy themselves at a tailgate and a bowl. And Ole Miss fans know how to. Could be a lot of fun, but you know this will be the best offense Penn State has played all year.
And Lane Kiffin is very innovative. So, plus, he's very good at press conferences, too.
Yeah, he's going to be entertaining.
He's
perfect. He's a perfect, bowl representative and a bowl opponent. I think it's going to be really a lot of fun. So, Hot Atlanta, right? Here they come. We discussed the never-before-seen matchup between the Nittany Lions and Ole Miss. Chop one of Penn State's best defenders off the available players list, and what we might expect from PSU's new offensive coordinator in our opening drive. So we've got Penn State versus Ole Miss here. Number 10 versus number 11. Thought it might be Missouri. Instead, it's the Rebels. So 4 SEC teams, guys, in the New Year's Six.
It seems like the SEC pretty much gets whatever they want with this system. We'll see what happens next year in the playoff, because that would put Ole Miss in the playoff over Oklahoma next year. If this were next year.
It's going to be real interesting, that 11 and 12 discussion. But
that will be the real discussion next year, be 11 and 12. And once again, I have to say it, I feel bad for Florida State.
You mentioned Lane Kiffin at the very beginning about that innovation. And I think, for someone like Manny Diaz, I think this is just going to be great to kind of see what you can do. Put your kids in different situations. How do you approach a bowl matchup defensively as you're building these kids up weeks ahead of time?
Well, you never want to be ready too soon. That's the key thing. You want to time it out perfectly. So you got to be careful. Work on your fundamentals. Make sure they're as sound as can be, because you're not sure what you're going to get when coaches have all this time. They just can't leave it alone. They got to do something. So there'll be some pretty interesting things that show up in the bowl game, and you just got to prepare for it and give your guys a taste, a little bit of everything. But a lot of it's going to come back down to just being fundamentally sound.
Yeah, and on the flip side, Jay, offensively, you saw some things those last couple of games that Penn State did that you just want to build on.
Yeah, I think the great thing about a bowl game is you have time to kind of sit down, evaluate a little bit, but also then to say, hey, let's try this and let's do that. Let's put a couple wrinkles in. That's what Tom gets at, is from a defensive standpoint, you don't want to be out of position, so that if there is something that's a little different, it gets you burned. Also, offensively, you got to be ready. They may throw a blitz or something at you that you might expect. So you got to really be fundamentally sound in the first quarter and kind of absorb the blows, and then win the game in the second, third, and fourth quarter.
Well, Coach Franklin is all for the matchup and a chance for Penn State to make bowl history.
Pretty cool that Penn State has never played in the Peach Bowl, which is something that's unusual in 2023. There's not too many things you can say that has never happened, especially for a program like Penn State. Should be a great experience for our players, should be a great experience for our fans. And obviously the matchup between the Big Ten and the SEC, two of the most respected conferences in all of college football.
If Penn State wins, they become the first program to ever win all of the major bowl games.
That'll be a little bit more of a challenge now without Chop Robinson as that pass rush group, which is important against a team like Ole Miss. But Tom, the opt-outs, they're
going to happen. You just got to be ready for them. There's not much you can do about it. You're going to get opt-outs. That's just the way it is in today's college football bowls, and it's going to happen. And I'm sure there'll be players opting out from the other side too.
Yeah, in the next 2 weeks we'll find out more. Obviously, Lane Kiffin this week in a press conference said he didn't think that he had the kind of guys that he was real worried about seeing a lot of opt-outs, because those can't miss first-round picks. But even he said, you never know.
Well, and you see a guy like Chop Robinson, and it brings up like kind of those emotions like, hey, man, thanks, but we'd love to see you one more time, right?
Yeah.
So you are happy, and you congratulate a guy like 44 who gave 2 really good years after a year at Maryland. And I remember talking to him after one of the last 2 games, and he was like, I underestimated how much fun I would have at Penn State and how much I would enjoy it. So those are the kinds of things that you love to hear from guys that come into the program. We know Chop is leaving. One of the big puzzle pieces arriving is new offensive coordinator Andy Kotelnicki, up-and-coming coordinator at Kansas, gets a chance in Happy Valley. Tom, you're not going to call him Kotelnicki.
No, Coach Andy, that's too many syllables. I can't say that many.
But Coach Andy's coming.
Coach Andy's coming. He's got a lot of innovative things. He's got 2 quarterbacks to work with. He's got a lot of good things, and he's done a lot of good things. It's going to be exciting. I'd hate to be the coach trying to prepare for him in the opening games.
I think the thing's going to be interesting is a lot of those innovative things he's done worked in a Big 12 conference, and you look at the types of defenses they saw in that league and that they played, and you get in the Big 10, and when you look at the Big 10, 4 of the top 4 defenses in the country are in the Big 10, plus Rutgers is top 20, Nebraska's a top 20 defense. So that's going to be a challenge is how that works in terms of against the type of teams that are so committed to defense in the Big 10.
Still to come, our scouting report. We have a little Heisman fun and break down how some of the finalists showed off their considerable skills when they faced the Nittany Lions. More Nittany Game Week after this.
Opening Drive is sponsored by your local Ford store. Visit buyfordnow.com today.
We're back on Nittany Game Week. The bowl opponent is now known. Still plenty of time to study the Rebels from Ole Miss. Before our coaches do that, well, they're going to break down some of the data accumulated from the 23 season and have a little Heisman fun.
Well, Todd, you get your bowl opponent on Sunday, and you want to be careful, Tom, not to have your team ready too early. So you spend a little time looking at what you just did.
What you did, and then work on your fundamentals. Don't get them bored. Time it out because you don't want them ready too soon.
And this week traditionally is awards week because you got the Heisman, you got the College Football Awards show, you got the National Football Foundation dinner, Hall of Fame dinner. So let's take a look at a little bit of what you'd start to look at in terms of yourself. Offense by the numbers, 12th in the country in points, so that's a good number. Turnover margin, exceptional. The rest of it, they're kind of, top half of the country. Good but not great, but good enough to be in every game. Now, Penn State made a switch in terms of their offensive coordinator. So in those last 4 games, there's 2 games against similar opponents. Indiana and Maryland, before they made the switch, you look at 42 points a game, 373 yards, the rushing numbers, the passing numbers, and good on 3rd and 4th down. Then after the switch, similar opponents in Michigan State and in Rutgers, and you see the points come down, the total offense goes up, the rushing goes up, passing comes down a little bit, 3rd and 4th conversions comes down a little bit. So that's the kind of things you're going to start to look at, especially with the new offensive coordinator coming in. So let's take a look at the defense. They've been the story all year. Tom, really good numbers.
Oh, great numbers on defense. You can't play much better than on defense. Just look at the points per game. I mean, you're looking at all these different things and you're saying, wow, they just don't get any better than this. And it's the one thing they've done is that I like the best is the turnovers.
No question. So let's take a look at the Heisman. Everybody, it's Heisman week coming up. The finalists have been announced. And Penn State now, when you look at the finalists and include J.J. McCarthy as well as Caleb Williams, 6 guys, Penn State has played 8 games against those guys and gone 2-6. Of the actual finalists that were announced this week, 2-4 against them. So let's talk about how they did against them, because we used to play a lot of Heisman trophies. So let's talk about Penix in 2020, first time Penn State played him. A lot of pressure, everybody. I'm not going to show the 2-point play, controversial thing, but let's take a look at what made him special there. Really good under pressure, making the throw here, Tom.
Great under pressure, and one of the things he's great with his feet. He's great with his eyes downfield. He's unflappable on this throw right here.
He's got a dude in his face, in his head, and he makes this throw and puts it just about where nobody.
And give the guy some credit for the catch.
It's a heck of a catch, no question. So let's talk about it. Now, Bo Nix at Oregon, okay? Another guy that may win this thing. Everybody may forget that he started at Penn State in 2021 for Auburn. Now, everybody remembers Alabama, Auburn. Alabama scores, same situation, but instead of rushing 2 like Auburn did, Penn State sends forward, gets some pressure on them, and they defend the end zone, Tom.
Well, one of the things Penn State does with 4 is they got 4 athletes rushing up here. They've substituted, got 4 guys that can really get after the quarterback.
Yes, they don't let him get comfortable back there, force him to throw it probably before he wanted to, and Penn State gets a win over a potential Heisman Trophy winner. Now let's go on to the next one. Okay, Penix came to Penn State the next year. Actually got hurt in this one and did not finish the season and ended up transferring to Washington. But Penn State gets pressure on him here now. Even hit on the throw again, but this time they hit him on the throw and create a turnover.
Yeah, this is the way it's supposed to work. When you hit him on the throw, you get a pick.
Yeah, so that said, Penn State, if Penix wins it, here's another win for Penn State over a Heisman Trophy, and we'll talk about that history in a minute. Now, another guy that was talked about a bunch before they ran the ball 32 times in a row at Penn State was J.J. McCarthy. Again, another Heisman caliber player. What makes him so special? His good ability to throw on the run, Tom. Here's a play-action pass.
Not only that, he's the quarterback of an undefeated team.
No question about it. And that used to be. But again, they've gone away from the pass as the emphasis and gone the run. Again, great throw on the run. Now, one other guy we want to talk about who is a finalist who will be there in New York, that guy Marvin Harrison Jr. Again, Penn State did a great job this year making him catch the ball underneath because they put a guy on him, had deep help, but they rely on the linebackers to cover him. Ohio State makes the adjustment on the crossing route, and we know how this ended, unfortunately.
Not good.
No, not good. But with that crossing route, the 2 linebackers run into each other, not a pick from Ohio State. And he gets loose, and that's one of those things that make him special. And that's one of the reasons he's in New York, because he's made plays like that. So, going to be a lot of fun.
And as I said before, you're better off doing that if you're going to do that. Not with linebackers, but with safeties coming down and taking them so they don't get all into that cluster.
Yep. So Penn State versus Heisman Trophy winners, a long history. Penn State has not played one since Troy Smith in 2006. Between 81 and 99, played 12 of the 19 Heisman Trophy winners started games against Penn State from 67 to 2006. 16 different Heisman Trophy winners started 32 games against Penn State, and Penn State went 21-11.
Thanks, guys. Fascinating stuff. Now, they have certainly faced some of the greatest talent the game has ever seen. And we're going to start to zone in on the Peach Bowl opponent, Ole Miss, in the coming weeks. Their head coach, Lane Kiffin, is a unique and dynamic character. He's looking forward to the Big Ten SEC showdown in Atlanta.
Unbelievable matchup, and to play a great university and program like Penn State and Coach Franklin, all the success that he's had there and the great players, and be close to home for us to where a lot of our fans can go to a great stadium. Obviously, a lot of stuff going on with playoff announcements and then the bowl games and then recruiting visits at the same time. So kind of in a whirlwind of things, but we couldn't be more excited about this bowl game and this matchup and coming to Atlanta.
Kiffin has a great sense of humor as well. He made sure to repost Chop Robinson's announcement that he was opting out of the Peach Bowl and then said, good luck. I'm sure Kiffin is thrilled he doesn't have to game plan for Chop on December 30th. Coming up, a different kind of impact interview. We only show you about half of the good stuff we get from our guests, so we'll dig out some of the unseen treasures from our guests, like 2-time All-First Team Big Ten quarterback Darrell Clark, when we come back. You're watching Nittany Game Week.
Impact Interview is sponsored by the Pocono Mountains, where small-town charm meets big adventures. Book your trip today by visiting PoconoMountains.com.
We're back on Nittany Game Week. Different kind of impact interview. Typically, we show you about 5 or 6 minutes of a 10 to 15-minute interview, with the rest living on our website, NittanyGameWeek.com. So it's time to deliver some of the extra points we get from our guests. Here's a few questions and answers we thought you'd love to see in this week's program.
Going back to 2008, which was obviously a really special season, was there a moment that you and your teammates realized that you were really onto something that was going to be a tremendous season?
So there were a few, but there was one that definitely stood out. After every Big Ten win, there was more confidence that was built, especially with me, because I was a nervous wreck pretty much before every single game. And with you talking to me, with Coach talking to me, and with my dad, after the first Big Ten win against Illinois, that was great. Under the lights, we did what we had to do and get the wins, and we Had a rough start with Purdue, but we got the win. And, we were counted out by a lot of people outside of the locker room. So when our first major road test against Wisconsin, and it was prime time, 8 o'clock, and we showed out. We came to the party and we made it happen. We started from the very beginning, and we imposed our will from the start to the finish. I realized, along with a few of the other teammates, that we can be a serious team, and we can be a team to be reckoned with. And we're starting to get close to that table to be in that discussion. Another thing that stood out to me, and I knew it from then on, when we were getting on, right before we got on the plane to head back to State College after that win in Madison, Todd Blackledge texted me, and I'll never forget it. I think they covered the game as far as commentary, and he texted me. He texted me and he said, "That was a really impressive win. You guys are for real." I was sold after that.
You've worked a national championship, but there are so many other great games in college football that wasn't necessarily for a national championship. What are one or two that stand out? And is there anything left on the bucket list that you want to get to?
Oh my gosh, that's so hard because I've covered so many good games. Okay, so national championship, covering national championship has always been a dream and a goal of mine. So to be able to do that the last 2 years has been surreal. I covered last year's national championship 8 months pregnant, which was like an intersection of both of my dreams coming true. So that was incredible. Last year, the Fiesta Bowl between TCU and Michigan was an incredible game. That was one of my favorite games I've covered, just in terms of the play on the field, the storylines, the athletes. Michigan and JJ McCarthy, like, he plays with so much passion. Just being able to witness someone like him on the sidelines and what he's saying to his teammates, before trying to win a game and make it to a championship. Like, I don't take for granted how special those moments are, and to even just be, on the sidelines witnessing things like that is so special. In terms of a bucket list, I think at some point in my career I want to cover a Super Bowl, and so that's something that is still ahead of me and that I would love to do at some point in my career.
Hey, Mike, I told people we were going to have you on our show tonight, and they wanted me to ask you this question. Of all your accomplishments and accolades, which ones stand out the most to you?
I have to say, and Jay, I don't know, and Tom, you guys, I don't know if you feel this. The past, it's not that I'm not interested. I don't really think much about it. I still, I find that I'm reasonably healthy. I get up and I work every day. I'm still engaged in what I might discover when I go over across the driveway into my little studio. And so I'm still engaged in that. One of my favorite stories is about the great, he's long gone now, Pablo Casals. At one point, he was considered the world's greatest cellist. The world's greatest cellist. Well, he lived to be an old man, and he was in his early 90s, and he was being interviewed. And, when you're now, that's changed. Along comes great other young talent. But she's interviewing him, and that in his early 90s, and he informs her during the interview that at 92, he got up every morning and practiced. And she said, "Maestro, you're Casals. You got up every morning and practice. Why?" And he said, "Because I think I'm making progress." And I love that story. That's such an inspiring story for me, because I really do. I don't think there is a secret to life. I just don't think there is. But there are a couple of little nuggets when you think about them, might get your butt up out of bed and to work on what's at hand for that day. If you're still engaged in this moment.
Hope you enjoyed those extra points. We're going to step aside for the TV show to take a break. Make sure to go to NittanyGameWeek.com for all of our Impact interviews and entire conversations, along with other web-exclusive content. Still to come, it's a 2-for-1 special for this week's Scrap Metal, why Tom honors a productive tandem in the backfield. Don't go anywhere, heading into the final minutes on Nittany Game Week.
Scrap Metal is sponsored by the We Are Inn, voted #1 game day restaurant in Center County. Follow us on Facebook and visit thewearein.com or call for dinner or room reservations.
Well, time to hand out the scrap medal, Tom. You want to recognize the 1-2 punch in the backfield that works on the field and off.
Two guys that exemplify team. Katron Allen, Nick Singleton, they work together. That's a great running tandem.
Yeah, they can do basically everything, Jay. Very versatile out of the backfield, catching, running, and their blocking's even been improving.
No question, and they give you a lot of things to think about.
Yeah, well, so, you know, if the one's not having a good game, the other one's having a great game. Tom, this is the exact video you're talking about right here. Look at that support for each other.
Exactly, and they work together. It's really made their team better offensively. You can see those two guys have a lot of respect for each other, and the team has a lot of respect for them.
And now they're scrap metal winners. Well, we enjoy bringing Nittany Lions fans together. One way to do that is with our depth chart at NittanyGameWeek.com. We're connecting businesses that support the show with our viewers. Make sure you check out the depth chart for ideas on where to eat, travel, and shop. Depth chart, extended impact interviews, the Overtime podcast, where we dive a little deeper into some college football topics. As you know, you can find it all on our website, NittanyGameWeek.com. We appreciate you watching the 30-minute program, of course, and encourage you to consume some of our web-exclusive content. Well, we talked about them earlier. We're going to finish the show with our pride picks, but Tom, I think we're still thinking about all those Heisman winners that Jay mentioned and all the ones that you had to face and prepare for.
Yeah, Jay ruined my evening because we brought up all those guys, all those Heisman
Two out of
trophies.
three of them. They shouldn't ruin it. It makes you happy.
It did, but it was, having to prepare for all of them, and he started bringing them all up. I'm going, I remember that one. Oh, yeah, that. So, it's
pretty cool.
It's pretty cool.
You
It
guys
really is,
faced
yeah.
and game planned against some of the best talent at, the game's ever had. So well done. So, all right, so we finished with those pride picks. Make sure you go to the website and vote for the playoff contenders at NittanyGameWeek.com. For Jay and Tom, I'm Todd. Thanks so much for watching Nittany Game Week. We'll see you next time.